Hello, and welcome to our webinar on the Razor's Edge version 795 and 796. While this webinar was originally presented for 795, this version has been adapted and updated to also reflect 796. So during today's webinar, we will cover the essential features of the update to 795 and why Blackbaud made these changes. We'll walk through the product enhancements of the update, what you will need to do in order to prepare for them, and we'll go over some of the frequently asked questions we've received. Then we'll share some upgrade resources as well. So without further ado, let's get into the product changes. So there are some essential features of 795 and above that you should make note of. We will cover each of these features in detail during this webinar. They include phones and emails moving off of addresses and being marked as inactive in certain scenarios, a new comments column, updates to pivot reports, a plugin designed to mark or unmark the primary or inactive checkbox on phones and emails, a new business rule that will control whether or not duplicate phone and email types can be added to records, and lastly, the removal of phone sharing on relationships. In the original release of the Razor's Edge, phone numbers, email addresses, and other contact information was required to exist as part of a constituent's physical address. At the time, this made perfect sense, as landlines and business phone numbers were the primary source of contact, and your internet service provider gave you your email address. Today, the landscape is very different. Cell phones are now common, and cloud email services have replaced those provided by your ISP. When you move, those contact methods don't change, they go with you. And that information should be associated with the constituent and not their address. So you asked and we listened. To keep up with the times, we separated phone numbers and email addresses from physical addresses in Razor's Edge 795 and moved that contact information to its own space on the constituent record. Many customers are familiar with our Idea Bank and User Voice. This was one of the top software requests on our User Voice, with almost 1,300 votes. So let's take a look at constituent records. If these screenshots are difficult to see, try maximizing the video so that you can see the details better. Phone numbers and email addresses on the constituent record are no longer part of the address block. Phone numbers, email addresses, web links, fax numbers, and any other contact numbers are now in a tabbed grid below the address block. The same grid appears on relationship records, participant records for events, and anywhere else phone and address information is stored. Each tab of the grid that contains data will display a red checkmark, just like the tabs in other areas of the Razor's Edge. In order for phone numbers and email addresses to display on the appropriate corresponding tabs, you'll want to make sure that all of your phone types have the correct formatting setup. This can be done in Config, Tables, Phone Types. If you are updating from 794, most of this functionality already exists. The new Date Last Changed and Comments columns now appear on the contact information grid of constituent records. These fields serve as a reference to easily identify phone numbers, email addresses, and other contact information on records. The Comments column provides a free text field to enter additional information, such as do not call after 6 p.m., or if you're updating from 793 or lower, to indicate that the information was moved to the constituent record from an alternate address. If you're upgrading from 793 or lower, the comments column will be pre-populated with text to indicate where that contact information came from, such as an alternate address. This table shows each of the scenarios in which the comments column will be pre-populated, the format in which the pre-populated comments will appear, and an example of each. For reciprocal relationships, The comments field will display one of the relationship records from which the contact information came, and it will also display the number of other reciprocal relationships this information existed on. As you can see, this example shows from relationship with Angela DiResta plus 2 others. For seasonal and alternate addresses, the comment field will display whether or not the information came from a seasonal or alternate address, the address type that it came from, and the first address line from that record. An example is seasonal-home-12 Vermont Avenue. The same format applies to alternate addresses. For more examples on how contact information changes on constituent records when upgrading, please see Knowledge Base article 113961. The new source record column will appear on relationship records for individual to organization relationships. This column helps you identify which contact information applies to the relationship and which applies to the constituent. In this screenshot, the first row in the contact information grid displays Miss Daly's home phone number from her Bio 1 tab, and the second row displays the phone number specific to her relationship with Business Information Systems. An example of this scenario is if she has an extension or direct number at the company. To edit the home phone that came from Miss Daly's Bio 1 tab, simply click on her name in the source record field and edit the phone information on her constituent record directly. In 795, users can determine which tab of the contact information grid is selected by default when accessing a constituent record. This will allow for the most useful information to display when a record is opened. To set the phones and emails user option, click Tools on the Razor's Edge menu bar and select User Options. From the Records tab, select Phones Emails on the left-hand side, and then in the default tab field, select the Contact Information tab you'd like to display automatically when you open a constituent record. This is a user-specific setting. If you've already updated to version 794, you may be aware that with the update, we allowed for duplicate phone types to be entered onto records. For example, a record could have 2 home phones or 4 different email types listed. In version 795, you can now set a business rule to allow, prompt for, or prevent multiple phone numbers and email addresses of the same type to be saved. The business rule can be set separately for both phone and email addresses, and the options you can choose from are Do Not Allow Record to be Saved, Display Warning, or Save Record Anyway. A major consideration for phone and email data is that reciprocal relationship contact information will be marked as inactive on the Bio 1 tab during the update from 793 to 795. Since you can no longer have relationship-specific phone number information, all phone numbers listed on individual-to-individual relationships in the Razor's Edge 793 now appear on the Bio 1 tab of the main constituents record. To keep consistency with how the Bio 1 tab looked in 793, reciprocal relationship contact information is automatically marked inactive when it's moved to the Bio 1 tab. The screenshots on this slide can be used as a reference for this scenario. In 793, which is the screenshot on the left, if you go to Angela DiResta's constituent record and open her relationship with Joseph DiResta, their relationship contains multiple relationship-specific phone numbers. These are phone numbers that are only entered on this relationship record. This relationship record is linked with Joseph DiResta's constituent record, which you can see because his name is grayed out on the relationship record. Since you can no longer have relationship-specific phone numbers in 795 for individual-to-individual relationships, the phone numbers and email addresses from Angela's relationship record with Joseph are moved to the Bio 1 tab of Joseph's record and marked as inactive. In the screenshot on the right, which is Joseph's constituent record in 795, you can see multiple business and cell phones, but only when you mark the Show Inactive Phones and Emails checkbox. This is because one business phone and one cell phone were already on Joseph's record. The two numbers that are marked as inactive came from his relationship-specific phone numbers with Angela in 793. The business and cell phone numbers from the screenshot on the left. As a general rule, any relationship-specific phone numbers for individual-to-individual or organization-to-organization relationships in 793 will be moved to the Bio1 tab of the linked constituent and marked inactive in 795. This allows you to keep your information and allows your constituent records to appear as they did in 793. Another major consideration with regard to phone and email data is that any contact information associated with alternate addresses will be moved to the Bio1 tab during the update and marked inactive. It's important to note that any phone numbers and email addresses that have the same phone type, same DNC status, and the same phone number are deduplicated during the update. This same applies to any relationship-specific phone numbers or email addresses on individual-to-individual relationships. When that information is moved to the Bio1 tab of the appropriate constituents, duplicates are removed. And again, if you're updating from 794, this functionality already exists. So with the changes to contact information sharing in 795, it's important to understand how relationships are affected. This slide displays how the update will affect the phone and email data on relationships in different scenarios. On the first row, relationships between two full constituent records of the same type are individual-to-individual or organization-to-organization relationships. In this scenario, all phones and emails must be edited on the org1 or bio1 tabs of the main constituent records. No contact information can be edited directly from the relationship record. On the second row, relationships between two full constituent records of different types would be individual to organization relationships and vice versa. In this scenario, you can edit relationship-specific contact information such as direct office phone number or work email address for an individual at their workplace. Other phones that are not specific to the relationship need to be edited on the Bio1 or org1 tabs of the applicable constituent record and will appear locked on the relationship record. For any relationships between a constituent and a non-constituent, the third row of this grid, contact information can be edited on the relationship record itself. If that relationship is ever promoted to a constituent, their existing contact information from the relationship will be added to their new constituent record, and at that time it will become locked or shaded in yellow on the relationship record. As a general rule, you can only change phone number from the source constituent record. So let's switch gears a bit and talk about some of the additional changes you'll find in Razor's Edge 795 and above. If you're updating from 793 or lower, you will find a new plugin called the Mark Phones Primary plugin. This will allow you to automatically mark or unmark phone numbers of a specific type as primary or inactive. In new queries and exports, phones and emails are now nested under their own phones node instead of under the addresses node. Email addresses, web links, fax numbers, and any other contact numbers are under the specific phones node, which is highlighted in this screenshot. Existing queries and exports using the old data structure will still work as normal. This only applies to new queries and exports. The new comments and date last changed fields are also available in query and export. Additional changes in import, existing constituent phone imports have been renamed constituent phone legacy. You can still run them, but you cannot create new constituent phone legacy imports. Instead, a new constituent phone import is available, and this new constituent phone import does not require the phone address import ID. In custom reports, any phone numbers and email addresses that were previously associated with alternate addresses will no longer appear when you run your reports. In order for those phone numbers and addresses to appear, you'll need to edit your reports to include inactive fields, or prior to the update, you'll need to associate those phone numbers and email addresses with the constituent's preferred address. Also, when run through 795, Crystal reports created in Crystal 8.5 will be converted to Crystal 11, which prevents them from being opened with Crystal 8.5. For this reason, we recommend upgrading to Crystal 11 before upgrading Razor's Edge to 795. To do so, please follow the steps in Knowledge Base article 43751. And all of these articles will be listed as resources at the end of the webinar as well. Pivot reports are now generated in Microsoft Excel. Existing pivot reports will still exist in the Razor's Edge 795, but you will need to recreate each axis to get results to appear in Excel. In Excel, the pivot report will divide into 3 sheets: the pivot chart, the data pulled from the query you selected to use to create the pivot report, and the pivot report itself. If Blackbaud hosts your Razor's Edge database, the pivot reports will open in a hosted version of Excel 2007. If you wish to open this in your local version of Excel, follow the steps in Knowledge Base article 61532 to save this to your local computer and open the file from there. Lastly, please be sure to check the system requirements on our website for updated compatibility information. Some additional changes to note. In versions 793 and lower, there was a requirement to have Microsoft Office web components installed in order to use Dashboard. With 795, this is no longer a requirement. There's also a new automatic refresh setting for dashboard panels. You can see this option in the screenshot on the left. Every time the dashboard module is opened in the Razor's Edge, each panel that is ready to be refreshed will reload with up-to-date data based on the time intervals that you set. The final dashboard change is that you no longer have the option to send a panel as an email. Instead, you can now save the panel as an HTML file. After saving the panel as an HTML file, you can then attach it to an email as you would any other file attachment. There will be slight differences in the update to 795 depending on which version you're updating from. If you're updating from 793 or lower, reciprocal relationship contact information will move to the Bio1 tab during the update and will be marked as inactive. There will be no contact information plugin, which is something we made available to those that updated to 794. Instead, the new comments field will be pre-populated with either the reciprocal relationship information from which it came, or seasonal or alternate address information that has send mail checked. If you're updating from 794, no changes will be made to your database's existing phone and email address structure. The new comments field will not be populated with any information during the update to 795. However, it will still be a fully functional free text field that you can utilize to enter specific notes about each phone or email entry. Instead of pre-populated information in the comments field, you can utilize the contact information plugin, which will still be available after the update as it is now. Now let's talk about preparation for the update to 795. The new contact information grid, where phones and emails are stored, contains different tabs of phone data. Which tab each phone or email is stored on depends on the format applied to the phone type. To make sure that phones and email addresses end up on the appropriate corresponding tab in the grid, please make sure that each phone type has the correct format. this can be set up in config tables and phone types. If you use pivot reports, since pivot reports use updated Office web application technology, existing pivot report structures like row-column mappings and filters will not remain or convert from 793 to 795. As such, we suggest taking screenshots of your existing pivot reports so that you can use them as a guide to recreate the reports after the update. For custom reports, as noted before, when run through RE795 Crystal reports created in Crystal 8.5 will be converted to Crystal 11. So follow the steps in Knowledge Base Article 43751 for steps to upgrade to Crystal 11. Also, any custom reports that currently include phones and emails from alternate addresses will need to be modified after the update to include the inactive phone and email fields from the Bio1 tab. So it might be helpful for you to make note of any affected reports that you'll need to update later. For query and export, you will not need to rebuild any existing queries or exports. However, if you do have any that include phone or email information, you may want to consider modifying them to exclude inactive phones. You can do this by adding the phone inactive filter in the query or export. As far as data preparation goes, be sure to fully review Knowledge Base Article 113691, which walks through the steps to help prepare. It may also be useful to install a standalone installation of your data and upgrade that first. This way you'll be able to see how the upgrade affects your data and decide if you need to make any additional preparations. If you integrate with Razor's Edge and the Education Edge, there are some important preparation steps which we'll cover in more detail on the next slide. These steps are also listed in Knowledge Base Article 96538. As mentioned on the previous slide, there are some important steps that need to be taken if you integrate your Razor's Edge database with the Education Edge. These steps are also listed in Article 96538. Before updating to RE795, Education Edge must be on minimum version of 787 patch 9. EE Patch 10 is currently available for download from our website, and it's compatible with the Razor's Edge 795. We strongly recommend running the mismatch-linked EE primary address plugin. This can be run today. You don't have to wait until you're ready to update. This tool is extremely important to avoid inadvertently deleting or inactivating contacts during the update to 795 or subsequent synchronizations. Instructions for running that plugin and correcting affected records are available in Knowledge Base Article 73724. The plugin will not make any changes to your database. It only creates a list of records with their primary EE address linked to an alternate RE address. Before updating EE or RE, we also recommend that you disable automatic synchronization if you set it up as a scheduled task. Run a manual synchronization right before you begin the upgrade process to ensure the information in both databases is current. Then, after updating to 795, activate any RE contacts that were marked inactive during the update if you want to retain these contacts in EE. Contacts on alternate addresses in RE are marked inactive in 795, and these inactive contacts are then removed from Education Edge during synchronization. If you want to retain these contacts, the inactive option needs to be unmarked. We also recommend opening the linking grid before running synchronization. It may take some time to open the first time after the updates, but you'll want to let it run. You can enable automatic synchronization after successfully completing 2 manual syncs. Lastly, you'll want to relink records that were identified by the mismatched linked EE primary address plugin following the steps in Knowledge Base Article 73724. No matter which version you're updating from, There are ways that your organization can prepare for the update to 795. The first item is to review the new business rule. Since this rule controls phone number data entry, we recommend that you determine how you'll want it to be set after the update. For steps on how this business rule works and how to set it up, you can refer to KB Article 96761. Next, we suggest that your organization determine how or if you would like to use the new comments field moving forward. There may also be existing phones and emails that could potentially benefit from having comments added to them. In addition to the preparation for 795, also be sure your environment is ready for .NET Framework 4.6, which will be installed with 796. Razor's Edge integrates with many other Blackbaud products. If you use Blackbaud Net Community with the Razor's Edge and you're updating from version 793 or lower, we recommend reviewing this post in our community that outlines how BBNC utilizes phone types after the update. Or you can access Knowledge Base Article 43082. For split-hosted and self-hosted BBNC clients, be sure to upgrade the RE client installation on the Razor's Edge web service server. If you integrate with Financial Edge, the minimum required version is 787 patch 3, but patch 10 is recommended. Also, if you're on the latest patch of FE/EE, then you must also be on version 795 or higher of RE. Unfortunately, the Patron Edge is not compatible with Razor's Edge 796 because it isn't compatible with .NET Framework 4.6, which is installed with 796. If you integrate with Online Express or ConnectRE, no action is needed. If integrated with Luminate Online, you'll want to make sure your Luminate Online plugin is on a current version. Also, you can find out more information on how phones and emails will map to Luminate Online in Articles 74767 and 98625. Let's go over some of the frequently asked questions that we received during the update. Can my organization opt out of the update? To remain compatible with the PCI standards deadline in 2018, all customers should upgrade to RE 796 and the latest patch by March 2018. More information can be found in Knowledge Base 108203 and our PCI compliance upgrade page, linked in the slide here. If I have an organization record that has 100 employees, does that mean that the organization will have phone numbers from 100 relationships on its Org1 tab? No, it does not. Information from reciprocal relationships will only be moved to the Org1 or Bio1 tab for organization to organization, such as Blackbaud Target, and individual to individual, such as Bob to Wendy, relationships. Organization to individual relationships and vice versa will be unaffected by that move. What cleanup or preparation is required before I move to 795? Can I move to 795 if my data isn't clean? Article 96519 walks through the recommended preparation. Many customers who upgrade require no cleanup of contact information, but to evaluate how the upgrade will look in your data, upgrading a standalone installation first may be helpful. Can my organization upgrade directly to 796 if we're on version 793 or lower, or will we have to update to 794 first? You can definitely upgrade directly. We suggest updating directly to 796. The exception to this is if you're on version 781 or lower, then you will need to follow the instructions in Article 50547 and first apply the update to 785 before going to 796. And finally, here are some further resources on the upgrade and how to prepare, including how the Razor's Edge is affected by the upcoming TLS 1.1 requirements. So this webinar and the slides will be placed on our community, and feel free to look over the resources listed in it at your leisure. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.